PR Connections Radio presents
Welcome to Vegas Hockey Hub here on PRConnectionsRadio.com, the voice of new media. I'm your host, Ian Rachiele. And on this edition of this show, we are going to be discussing something a little bit different on Vegas Hockey Hub, as we are going to be talking about the possibility of a reunion of the Vegas Golden Knights. And I'm going to propose to you a question. Should the Vegas Golden Knights bring back beloved fan favorite Ryan Reaves? I'm going to be explaining to you in this video 2 reasons why they should, and then 2 reasons why they shouldn't. So this is going to be a good video, kind of just trying to do something a tad bit different here on this episode of Vegas Hockey Hub here on PR Connections Radio. Go to the website, www.prconnectionsradio.com. Check out all the content they have on there. We have about over a dozen shows on the network. So go to prconnectionsradio.com. Check out all of the amazing content we have on the network. We have shows like We Have the Power. We have Love of Business. So many amazing shows on Vegas Hockey Hub that are on PR Connections Radio. Also, we got to give a shout out to our sponsor, Classy Communications. Classy Communications, a fantastic company that is helping out PR Connections Radio. So I will say thank you to Classy Communications for what they are doing and helping support the network. So this is Vegas Hockey Hub, and the reason why this video is being made, and really the main reason why this is being brought up, is because we saw what happened just a while back, okay? We have seen what has been going on with your Vegas Golden Knights, okay? We have seen the series against Dallas. We watched what happened in the regular season, and there's something clearly missing from your Vegas Golden Knights, all right? There is a noticeable absentee that the Vegas Golden Knights need to fill, and the first reason why you could bring back Ryan Reaves, the first reason why you would be able to try to go out and acquire him again and bring him back as a Vegas Golden Knight is that one aspect of hockey the Vegas Golden Knights are missing. And it has been very noticeable in that first round against Dallas. It was noticeable for the second half of the regular season. But Vegas needs toughness. Oh, yes, they do. This is a Vegas Golden Knights team that has been getting straight up bullied at times, okay? This is a Vegas Golden Knights organization that does not have the same physicality as they have had in recent years. And I wonder who used to bring that physicality with the Vegas Golden Knights. Oh, that's right. It's a person on your screen in Ryan Reaves. Ryan Reaves, even though some people liked him, some people didn't, one fact that you cannot deny is that Ryan Reaves was a player that you could depend on your bottom 6, on your 4th line. Ryan Reaves was a player who your Vegas Golden Knights could count on to bring the physicality. He was someone who would pound people into the boards. He was someone that was good on the back check. If there was someone messing with the goalie, Revo would handle it real quick. But somebody hit Marchessault in the Stanley Cup Finals, a.k.a. Tom Wilson, Ryan Reaves would check Tom Wilson very quickly. So, when it comes to Ryan Reaves, we've seen in the past that he is someone that can be very good for your organization. You also have to take into account what his stats have been as a member of the NHL. Because when it comes to Ryan Reaves, there is someone who, he doesn't score a lot of goals, but what Ryan Reaves does effectively is actually very, and I say very, interesting. Because this is somebody in Ryan Reaves, and when you look at his advanced analytics and his advanced metrics, he is one of the best when it comes to hits. Ryan Reaves, this past season, had 165 hits with the Toronto Maple Leafs. It's also the same Ryan Reaves that has had over 20 or more blocks in his career. He's done that 5 times in his career per season. It's also the same Ryan Reaves who actually has hit 200 or more hits 6 times in his career. So if you need somebody that's going to be laying down the hits, go get Ryan Reaves. If you want someone who's going to be blocking shots and helping your defense out, go get Ryan Reaves. It's also somebody that in terms of time on ice, he's a fourth line guy. And because he's a fourth line guy, if you need him to be on the ice for 8 minutes per game, he'll give you that. I mean, in Vegas, if I recall, I think he averaged about 10 minutes of ice time per game. Because once again, when you're on the fourth line, you're averaging about 8 to 10 minutes. Now, the one aspect of Ryan Reaves' game that so many people choose to not talk about is, well, Ryan Reaves, yeah, he can hit. Yeah, Ryan Reaves, he can block. But can he still be the same bottom 6 forward that brings a part of being a team player, right? Can Ryan Reaves be that type of guy who, when you need a bottom 6 forward, is he going to show up every single game? Is Ryan Reaves, at this point in his career, he's in his late 30s now, can he be an everyday guy? And this does get mentioned because he only played in about 50 games this year for Toronto. He played about 60 games in Minnesota last year, the year previously. But here's one thing you have to ask yourself. Ryan Reaves has only played a full 82-game season once in his career. Now, he did miss 2 games with the Vegas Golden Knights around 2019, and then there was 1 year in St. Louis. He had 1 game missed, and the following year he had 2 games missed. So he has done it in the past. But recently, throughout his career, he has been a 60-game guy. He had 69 games in the New York Rangers, 60 games in the Minnesota Wild, like I said, 50 games in the Toronto Maple Leafs. But the bottom 6 is what matters. And if you really want to study it, there are a portion of bottom 6 forwards who don't play all 82 games. For example, a guy like William Carrier, who William Carrier has missed a portion of time this past season. You also had on the bottom 6 guys that were in an influx and they kept moving in and out of the starting lineup because they're a bottom 6 forward. Sometimes you like them because of a better matchup. Sometimes you like them more because they're not going to be, you need more physicality, so you swap somebody out. Sometimes you need more goal scoring, so you swap somebody back in. I look at someone like Paul Cotter, for example, as somebody who kept on being put in and out of the lineup due to certain need sets. But reason number 2, why Ryan Reaves could be valuable to the Vegas Golden Knights. The second reason why you should bring back Ryan Reaves is your bottom 6 is lacking in Vegas. For the first time in a couple of seasons, it is noticeable how the bottom 6 in Vegas is not holding the same weight as it used to. This is a bottom 6 that unfortunately during the playoffs, and we're going to go back to the playoffs real quick, when you took on the Dallas Stars, and it's still fresh in my mind, this was a bottom 6 where, yeah, William Karlsson was productive. He was scoring. But does anybody remember what the rest of the bottom 6 was doing? Because, you know, to kind of take it back and think about what actually happened in that playoff series, the bottom 6, outside of one player, really did not produce in terms of goals, in terms of assists, in terms of points. Their plus minus was kind of meh. And in terms of penalty minutes, it actually was more of the defensemen that actually affected the penalty minutes. It was more of the defensemen that had the physicality that Vegas was looking for. And, you know, a lot of people are going to mention Keegan Kolesar, and I understand that there are people who like Keegan Kolesar, and then there's some people who wonder why he's still on the team. But ask yourself this question, okay? And really ask yourself this question. How much better was Ryan Reaves than Keegan Kolesar when he was in Vegas? Okay? And we have a 3-year stat, by the way, to actually back this up. But when it came to the bottom 6, and I'm mentioning the playoffs once again as my variable, how did Keegan Kolesar perform in the playoffs for Vegas? Well, so far, throughout the games that we talked about with the Dallas Stars, I mean, those 5 games that he played those 5 games that he played. Well, how did Keegan Kolesar do exactly? Well, he only had, he really didn't have any goals. He had no assists, and he's really had a +0. So outside of his skating around and having about 10 minutes of ice time, so far, Keegan Kolesar, all he had in the postseason was zeros among the entire stat sheet. A few shots, maybe 1 or 2 shots here and there. But when you look at Keegan Kolesar, he's not really having that physicality that you would be looking for on the bottom 6. As a matter of fact, when you actually study what his stat line has been, is a Keegan Kolesar who, unfortunately, during the postseason against Dallas, not only did he miss Game 5, right? But in those first 4 games, like I mentioned, he only had 4 shots on net. He really did not have much in terms of production. And in terms of ice time, I think really the only game that he had over about 11 minutes was Game 3, and that was because it was in overtime. So for Keegan Kolesar, not having a great postseason is something to be a bit concerning about. But let's also remember that Keegan Kolesar and Ryan Reaves played together. Matter of fact, they had 2 seasons where Kolesar and Reaves both played at the same time. And to compare those two, by the way, during the 2 seasons that Ryan Reaves and Keegan Kolesar both suited up at the same time, Ryan Reaves had 9 goals, 11 assists, 20 points, and over 70 penalty minutes. It's also Ryan Reaves during those 2 seasons where he had 40 blocks and over 450 hits for your Vegas Golden Knights. Keegan Kolesar, during those 2 years, he had 3 goals, 10 assists, 30 penalty minutes, and he had 15 blocks and 109 hits. So, during those 2 seasons, you can tell that there is a noticeable difference between Kolesar and Reaves. Reaves had 9 goals, Kolesar had 3. You also had a situation where you had 20 points for Reaves, 13 for Kolesar. And the penalty minutes, Ryan Reaves had 40 more penalty minutes than Kolesar did. And when it came to block shots, Ryan Reaves had about 25 more, and then he had about over 300 more hits than Kolesar did. So when you kind of look at that, you sit there and say, has Kolesar really replaced the physicality that Ryan Reaves once did? I look at what Keegan Kolesar has done, and yes, this past season, I will give him credit. He did do better than what he did in the previous year. This was a guy who has scored about 16 goals the past 2 seasons. He has had 36 points the past 2 seasons. And in terms of penalty minutes, this is someone who's had over 115 penalty minutes in the past 2 seasons combined. But I'm talking about when it comes to the bottom 6, this postseason has not been great for the Vegas Golden Knights. It really shows how the Vegas Golden Knights are lacking at times on that bottom 6. And if you are the Vegas Golden Knights organization, if you need to add a veteran presence to the bottom six, what about Ryan Reaves? If you need to add some more physicality and bring in somebody that's going to show some intimidation to the opposite opponent, what about Ryan Reaves? And if you are the Vegas Golden Knights organization and you can find a way to make the cap space work, then what about Ryan Reaves? Now, those are the two reasons why Ryan Reaves should be brought back. Reason one is that they need toughness. They need physicality. It is so apparent that they do not have an enforcer type guy in the locker room. They do not have somebody on the ice who's going to defend his teammates and make sure that their teammates are taken care of. Vegas does not have this toughness. Vegas does not show this physicality. And when it comes to your Golden Knights, they need to have someone like Ryan Reaves here. That's reason number one why they should bring him in. Reason two is the lacking of the bottom six. William Carrier missing parts of the season. His body is breaking down. And unfortunately, if we're going to bring up the postseason, this is a situation where William Carrier, just similar to Keane Kolazar, Kolazar's had 0 goals, 0 assists, and 0 points during the postseason. Well, same with William Carrier, except he had that 1 goal in Game 5, so good for him. But he had that 1 goal in Game 5, but outside of that, you haven't really seen him that much in terms of production. So, Keane Kolazar, William Carrier, Nick Waugh, unfortunately having a goose egg as well with 0 points, despite the great regular season that he had. So, outside of William Karlsson, Brett Howden maybe if you want to look at it from a defensive perspective, but that bottom six just did not work in the postseason, and you really need to add production and veteran leadership on that bottom six. So those are the two reasons why they should bring him back. But there is 2 reasons why they shouldn't bring Ryan Reaves back. And when it comes to the Vegas Golden Knights, reason number 1 why you should not bring back Ryan Reaves. All right, this is the devil's advocate part of it. We spent the first half of the show talking about why you should have the Golden Knights bring back Ryan Reaves. Now this is the second part of it. And reason number 1, a sequel is normally worse than the original. And here's what I mean by that. In sports, a reunion is not always a good idea. When you bring back a fan favorite, when you bring back somebody who is beloved by the organization, the results normally do not replicate themselves. We have seen in baseball, basketball, football, hockey, insert racing just for the argument. When you bring someone back into an organization, yeah, it's a feel-good story. Yeah, the fans are going to love it. They're going to cheer for him for a little bit. But then once the honeymoon phase wears off, all right, once the glamour and the awe of bringing back someone who was beloved, you got to perform. And we have seen, unfortunately, in the NHL that when someone who is 28 leaves an organization and they come back at age 32 and they don't perform like they did when they're 28, fans are going to get a bit annoyed. And what happens when fans get annoyed? They start to complain. And what happens when fans start to complain? The ownership, the executives, the general manager, the head coach, they have to take notice because the fans are doing all the outrage on social media for likes and clicks and all of that. Now, do I say that Ryan Reaves, it would be an issue if he came back? No. I vividly remember that Ryan Reaves being acquired at the 2018 trade deadline helped your Vegas Golden Knights win the Pacific Division that year. In fact, you see that patch on his jersey. You see that he helped them make the Stanley Cup final. I mentioned the Tom Wilson situation when he took out Marchessault in the Stanley Cup final, Ryan Reaves was all over Wilson immediately afterwards. So I'm not going to sit here and say that it's not 100% that he would not perform like he did when he first got here. But what I'm going to mention to you is that there is a good percentage of a possibility that if Ryan Reaves joined the Golden Knights organization for the second time, that the results would not be as favorable. There's a possibility that Ryan Reaves would not score 9 goals again for the Vegas Golden Knights like he did in 2019. There's no guarantee that Ryan Reaves is going to put up around a dozen assists like he did in 2019. And I also have to mention this. This is the same Ryan Reaves that had over 150 penalty minutes with the Vegas Golden Knights organization. There's no guarantee that he is going to replicate the same stats he did in Vegas. As a matter of fact, his total stat line in the Vegas Golden Knights organization during the 3 whole seasons that he played in Vegas, 188 games played, 18 goals, 22 assists for 40 points with 148 penalty minutes. I also have to mention, and thanks to hockeyreference.com for my statistics, this is the same Ryan Reaves that had over 700 hits and 60 blocked shots in those 3 full seasons. Now, let's compare the final 3 seasons that Ryan Reaves has played, okay? Now, Ryan Reaves, he spent 2 seasons with the New York Rangers, had 81 games, 5 goals, 8 assists for 13 points and 55 penalty minutes. On top of that, he had over 300 hits and 20 blocked shots. And then this season, playing for the Toronto Maple Leafs, thanks to Hockey Reference for all this data, 49 games played, 4 goals, 6 points, 49 penalty minutes with 165 hits and 17 blocked shots. So his hits are staying around the same. His blocked shots have been consistent. But the one part that has gone down a bit with Ryan Reaves is that he has had 9 goals in the past 3 seasons. Whereas with, like I said, with the Vegas Golden Knights, he had 18 goals with the Vegas Golden Knights during that tenure. So his goals are been cut in half. Also, during those 3 seasons that he played with the New York Rangers and the Toronto Maple Leafs since leaving Vegas, he has had a situation where he had 19 points for the Rangers and the Toronto Maple Leafs organization, whereas between Vegas during those 3 seasons that he was there, he ended up having 40 points for the Vegas Golden Knights. And when it comes to penalty minutes, which is also very vital, he has also accumulated a good amount of penalty minutes there, but not on the same level as he did in Vegas. So I'm going to sit here and say with Ryan Reaves, the reason why I put this on here, that a sequel is normally worse than the original, is that his goals are being cut in half. His points are almost around cut in half. His penalty minutes are going down ever so slightly. And his hits, while staying around the same level, he's playing in less games than he did with Vegas. Like I mentioned, during the 3 full seasons he played with the Golden Knights, he suited up for 188 games during that time period. Where, as a New York Rangers organization, with the New York Rangers organization, he ended up playing in 130 games during the past 3 years. So he actually has played less games during that same time span than he did when he was in Vegas. So that is the first reason why you shouldn't bring back Ryan Reaves, because his statistics are slightly going down as he is getting older. And like I mentioned, in sports, when you bring somebody back, once you get past the honeymoon phase where everyone's happy to be back and kumbaya, you got to show up and perform. And if he showed up and performed, I would have no issue with it. But there is no guarantee that he will perform the same way that he did in his 3 full seasons playing for the Vegas Golden Knights. And then the second and final reason why you shouldn't bring back Ryan Reaves is the cost. Now, Ryan Reaves, when he joined the Toronto Maple Leafs organization, he signed a 3-year contract with a base salary of $1.35. Okay? He's getting paid a little over $1 million by the Toronto Maple Leafs. But since he signed a 3-year deal, it means that he would have 2 years left on his contract if he was brought over. And because you have 2 years left on your deal, that means that you would have leverage if you're the team trying to trade him. So, trying to acquire a Ryan Reaves would be difficult for the Golden Knights, not only because of the cap constraint that we know they're going to have, but because this is a Golden Knights team that if you're going to give up a 3rd-round pick for a Ryan Reaves, would that be enough for a 2-year contract? Would you give up Ryan Reaves if you gave him, let's just say, 2 5th-round picks? Because keep this in mind, 2 years left on his deal means that Toronto would have the leverage here, not Vegas. And just to bring a historical context into this, by the way, this would be the 4th time that he would be traded in his career. So the first time he got dealt, the St. Louis Blues sent him to Pittsburgh for Oscar Sundqvist and a 1st-round pick. Now, this was during his prime, okay? This is when Ryan Reaves was arguably one of the best enforcers in all of hockey. The Penguins wanted to add physicality. I understood why they did that. And then, at the 2018 trade deadline, the Pittsburgh Penguins traded Ryan Reaves straight up for Tobias Lindbergh. So the Vegas Golden Knights, all they had to give up was Tobias Lindbergh for Ryan Reaves, on the assumption that Vegas had to take on his contract, which they did. And then in 2021, at the offseason, the Vegas Golden Knights sent New York Ryan Reaves for a 3rd-round pick. So throughout his career, it went from being a 1st-round pick being sent for him by St. Louis to Pittsburgh, then being traded for a minor league prospect in Tobias Lindbergh when he got sent to Vegas. And then the last trade that he had was the New York Rangers, and that was being dealt for a 3rd-round pick. So when it comes to the Vegas Golden Knights, I would love to have Revo back. As a fan, I would say that it would be a great idea to bring back someone who is still beloved by the organization. But this right here could be the main reason why he doesn't get brought back. Because his base salary is $1.3 million, and because the Vegas Golden Knights are already going to have problems in terms of salary, I don't know how Vegas would, A, make the cap work, and 2, I think Toronto would want an actual good amount of value back for a guy like Ryan Reaves. For argument's sake, let's say a 4th-round pick, right? So you give up a 4th-round pick to Toronto, you acquire the 2 years left on Ryan Reaves' contract, but now that means that Vegas has to add on $1.3 million, and you have to ask yourself realistically, why would Vegas do that? Who would Vegas have to either trade away or send down to make the Ryan Reaves contract work? And when would it make sense to have a $1.3 million forward on the 4th line? Because you have Kolizar already. You have Waugh. We saw what Carrier's done, but he was around the same cap hit. So, if you're the Vegas Golden Knights, you acquire Ryan Reaves, would your 4th line be Revo, Waugh, and Kolizar? Or would you bump up Kolizar to the 3rd line and have the 4th line be Reaves, Waugh, and someone like Brennan Bryson? There's so many factors that we're going to talk about later down the road. But this was our video for today. should the Vegas Golden Knights bring back Ryan Reaves. And this is Vegas Hockey Hub. I'm your host, Ian Rachiele. Until next time, continue watching hockey, go support junior hockey, and go Knights, go.
PR Connections Radio thanks you for watching this podcast. Check out more episodes of this show and our others at prconnectionsradio.com.